President of Napoleon III. This is the city of Compiègne, where the race has now come home to French soil after starting in England and visiting Belgium. The battle continues for the green points jersey, but the sprinters, because of time bonuses, are also closing in now on Cancellara's yellow jersey. Yes, hi everybody, I'm Phil Liggett, this is Paul Sherwin. He has a memory problem because back in 1980, the only other time the race has ever come here in Compiègne, Paul says, I rode the race in 1980. I don't remember coming here. We checked the result. He finished in 12th place. That's one story. Paul, today let's talk about the battle for yellow as well as the battle for green, because it's true, the sprinters are closing in.
The sprinters are closing in. The first few days of the Tour de France over the flat stages, it gives the sprinters a chance to grapple away and try and get a chance to wear the yellow jersey. Points available today on these flat stages. As you mentioned, the big points, though, Phil, are all stacked up at the finish line. Between 1st and 5th place, you get 35 points down to 22 points. If you cross the line in 25th place, you'll get yourself a single point.
So there we are. We're now looking across the red roofs of France here now as the riders have crossed the border. There is a breakaway on. It got away after only 5 kilometers. Not surprisingly, the riders were released by the peloton. Nobody to actually chase them down. Mathieu Lanagneau, Français de Jeu, and Nicolas Vongedi from the AG2R team, and they are both French riders. There's the weather conditions, 54 degrees Fahrenheit. The conditions are cloudy. The wind, a southwest gentle one from 10 miles per hour. And the peloton, well, they picked up the pace a bit earlier because we did get a lead of nearly 14 minutes with these two riders at only 40 kilometers covered. But the tempo's been picked up. There is the man who sat down on top of the lot in the race yesterday, Fabien Cancellara. He's okay. Probably a bit stiff as Robin McEwen is on the right-hand side and his left shoulder. He also said it's his back which has been very stiff since the crash he had, but he too is riding okay. And he won the stage, remember, despite that crash. He's stepping up onto his bike again, Paul.
Well, a lot of riders went down very hard indeed, and I'm sure there's still a few of them licking their wounds this morning because that was a very nasty crash. The first sprint point of the day when we went through Tournai, the man who went there in first place was Nicolas Vongedi, a former national French champion. Lanagneau at that point was in second. The main field, which came across for third place, were already more than 11 minutes behind, led in there by Astroloza.
Up to 13 minutes after that sprint, which was after only 33 kilometers, 20 miles. But that's all gone now. We're heading for Fontainebleau for the next sprint point. It's a long way down the road. It's a long, lonely ride today for these two guys, but it won't be all day. From over 14 minutes to 7 minutes and 50 seconds. And the two Frenchmen, well, I think they would have hoped that somebody else had attacked when they did after only 5 kilometers, because they're facing up to the longest stage of the race. The weather forecast is reasonably good, although I have to say, commentating here from the finishing line in Compiègne, it's quite chilly. Rain has threatened but not come. But we have heard, by the way, Paul, that where we're going to Tignes in the Alps, which is only a few days away, it was snowing there yesterday.
That's a little bit of a worry, and I think it's also a little bit of a worry when you speak to the team manager of Français de Jeu, Martial Gaillon, and you say, now, what is the chance of the success of this breakaway this afternoon? Because after all, Martial Gaillon, who is from this region, has got a man in the breakaway. He said, well, the chance of success today is basically 0. So you may well ask, why are they doing it? But the reason they're doing it is for a little bit of glory, get the sponsor's name out onto TV, and of course to pick up some cash points along the way as well.
Welcome back. Still at the finishing line here. The caravan continues to arrive. The riders have been in the saddle for nearly 6 hours at the moment, and they're still a good hour away from the finishing line here as they're approaching the final 50 kilometers of the day, 31 miles. Their choice, and here we go now. A little bit of an attack here now, and it had to come. It's come a bit earlier than we actually thought would happen, as they've now started. This is Cofidis who decided to open up the fray. Time to reel in perhaps the two riders out in front and decide who is going to be in the mix for what would be a bunch sprint. I think we're saying goodbye to Charmes, the town that was totally destroyed in the First World War and has been rebuilt, as has its famous church, St. Peter's. We've had a glimpse of that during the coverage. And two riders going clear. Liquigas, third placed yesterday with Felipe Passato, are the two leaders here. And they will continue to see
Frederick Willems.
Frederick Willems.
I thought it was Charlie Wigelis looking to get himself off the front, but this man, Frederick Williams, just a little bit bigger than Charlie Wigelis, joined by the Cofidis rider. Cofidis is a team from the north of France, and obviously they were given the nod by the team management to try and get out on the front and start the aggression. They're not being given very much of an advantage there, though, as we go through the cornfields there over on the left-hand side, or maize. As you can see, the main field is taking this pretty much more seriously than the two riders who've been out at the front of the race for a long time, and the gap you can see is all of a sudden starting to tip down very rapidly. The two riders at the front of the race, and he's explained that in fact the two chasers are now only 39 seconds behind the two leaders, and he said to them that, hold on, wait for these two guys to come. They're strong riders. Once you form an alliance with them, we may well have a situation here where we can out-sprint and outperform the sprinters.
Well, I'll tell you what, the average speed, Paul, it'll go up now a little bit, but today is 33 kilometres an hour, just over 20.5 miles an hour. And normally you would expect to be racing on these stages at around 40-45 kilometres an hour. But the two riders up front, and they're in the distance, and there they are, and here comes the help now. This is what they're waiting for. Four riders together, who knows what will happen. This man, his race finishes about 25 kilometres before the end. All Stefan wants is to be over the top of that hill in the first three positions, and he will go on the podium tonight as leader in the King of the Mountains.
I'm surprised to see David Miller hasn't sent his team to the front to try and defend that position, because he'd said as far as he was concerned he could keep the lead in that competition all the way down to the Alps, and if he wanted to do that he needs to take the responsibility now. But they're gambling on the fact that the teams of the sprinters are going to do the majority of the pacemaking, and I think really that's been the situation of the race today. Everybody's been sitting back waiting for the sprinters teams to come forward and do all of the work.
We're hearing 3 minutes 5 seconds now for the peloton. Hands back, that's Freddy Rodriguez, number 47. He's got his left leg bandaged. And he's probably got bandages where we can't see them either under his racing jersey, because he had a nasty fall.
Carlos Sastre here, number 31. That indicates that he's the leader of his team. And he's basically, I think, up alongside the team car, taking on board drinks. You're allowed to do this up until 30 kilometres to go till the end. And Carlos Sastre, a fair way down in the overall classification at the moment, but I'll tell you one thing, I have a feeling that Carlos Sastre will climb up once we get into the mountains. They've made it. All
together, four riders in the lead, and they got up very, very quickly when they wanted to. Now there's a difference in the tempo. All of a sudden, Le Danu and Vogandy will work with these riders now, and there's there's three teams represented as well up here. So this is going 4 teams represented. So that means 4 teams won't be chasing back in that main field now. Also a pointer. And look at the difference in the pace now. 52 kilometres to go.
Well, this completely and utterly changes the physiognomy of the race. So we talked about two men who were starting to weaken, who'd been at the front of the bike race for an awful long time. Now they've just received reinforcements for 2 riders who've been sitting in the main field all day, sheltered from the wind. One man who's got a serious need to stay clear until they get to the big climb of the day, the only climb of the day. That's the man on the front now in the red jersey of Cofidis, Stefan Auger. Looking over his shoulder, wants some help and assistance from these guys, and they've actually got a pretty nice advantage. 3 minutes over the This now indicates 5 kilometres to go, 3 miles to go, 3/4 of a minute.
3 miles to go, 3/4 of a minute. Yes, Paul, is just a chance. We usually talk a minute every 10 kilometres, but this is the last 5 kilometres of the day. They are going very, very quickly now. The peloton are racing in excess of 55 kilometres an hour. The boys up front probably slightly less at 52.
See to go. I don't want to lose any precision. The Wu 5 seconds with 5 kilometres to go of riding. They look to me as if they're on schedule here to catch a kilometre to go to the finish, but they still can't give up. Frederick Williams there keeps looking at the other guys saying, come on, we need a little bit more energy. We've got a chance here to create the surprise. But if they look over their shoulders now, Phil, it will be a gap, and what they will see, it'll be a black heaving mass behind them, which is the peloton trying to pull back their prey.
Well, there is the 4 kilometres for the peloton. It looks down there now. We've got Crédit Agricole, Liquigas, Passato showed us yesterday. Quinziato also is a good sprinter, but he crashed yesterday. And now we have the Crédit Agricole boys on the front. creeping up on the outside. A little bit of pushing and shoving now because the sprint
Last a kilometre, think, well, how am I going to have a little bit more energy to look after my man? Willems now has seen the chance. This is a big chance for Willems. He's tried to go off the front here and he's got himself a slight gap.
Well, there's the balloon.
Moved though by Nicolas Vaugondy in second place. He's a serious pro. He's been around for a number of years. He's been the French national champion in the past. He knew this was a good move and he scrambled across the gap there. The other two riders, I think, have given up the ghost, but no, they haven't. Auger has seen this as his last-ditch effort to try and get himself a stage victory for Cofidis. There's the main
coming
field.
Back. Nicolas Vaugondy is going and the other two are clawing them back. The field will be in our vision very quickly, but we're heading for 2 kilometres. They've left the catch even later than yesterday, and we all know what happened yesterday. This is a huge effort by Frédéric Willems of Belgium, and the 3 Frenchmen have nailed him back, and Paul, that peloton is not close enough.
They are not there yet. It's 24 seconds. That big acceleration by Willems there, in fact, has stretched out the advantage again. They're inside of 2 kilometres to go. 2,000 metres is all these guys are looking at.
They are not going to do it, Paul.
Field.
I don't see how they can cross that gap now. And they've looked over the shoulders. Vaugondy's looked over. Don't ease up now because the race is here.
The only way the main field are going to catch them if those guys start playing that tactical manoeuvring of slowing down and waiting to see if they can save a little bit of energy on the charge to the line, because the main field won't. Willems has gone again. It was 20 seconds at 2 kilometres to go. Willems has got the strength, but he can't get rid of the Frenchmen, and they are like sandbags to him. He wants to throw them out and float to victory.
Well, I'll tell you what, if Stéphane Auger wins this stage, he only has to win by 18 seconds, and he'll be the yellow jersey of the race as well. And we're getting very close to the finish now. We're not there yet. We're racing down through the banks of the River Seine through Compiègne. We swing away. It might be against the riders. It is slightly uphill over the cobblestones.
Couple of nasty corners as we come up towards the finish line. They're starting to panic now. They're looking over their shoulders. They know the main field will not give up. There's the main field. It's looking at about 200 metres. They're not too far now. They're going to start to line up. They're not far away from the Flamme Rouge, and then the long straight to the finish line. This is very dangerous for these guys, but it's more dangerous for the men behind. There's the kite.
And these are the peloton here. They're on the cobblestones. They may totally have misjudged this today. A brilliant move. Those two riders strengthened by 2 more. If they win, they've been in the lead for 231 kilometres, and the peloton pass under the Flamme Rouge. We will quickly switch to the leaders.
Well, you can see now on the front, Lampre, everyone's panicking. The leading group of 4 riders, they've absolutely started to mess around. This is the cat and mouse tactics. This will lose the race for them. They've got to keep going. Somebody now has to take the responsibility, but Fabien Cancellara...
I do not believe this. The strength of the race leader has gone after them himself to save his yellow jersey from Auger, and Cancellara has taken off. There's confusion behind. Quick steps at when is Tom Bonan going to make his move? Is Mark Cavendish right on the front there? These boys, Vaugondy looks over, they're going to give it to the yellow jersey. This is going to be a huge press, and what a ride by Cancellara. He suddenly sensed he can win the stage from absolutely nowhere. They've wiped them out on the line of the stage of the Tour de France. 400 metres, 300 metres. Cancellara, the strong man of the time trial, has ridden them off his wheel. He is going to come up to the line here now. The move behind as Robbie McEwen kicks. McEwen and Robbie Hunter. Hunter now Bonan on the left. Cancellara, Zabel's on Cancellara's wheel, and it looks as though we've got Cancellara, Zabel on the line. Napolitano, Bonan, they all got beaten by the yellow jersey. That'll serve them right.
Well, that serves them completely and utterly right. Cancellara was sitting in the right place waiting for the move. He saw his opportunity. He's not really a great sprinter, but he's a great man over the final kilometre. He saw that move. Look at this. Zabel's face is scrunched up in agony. Napolitano a little bit further back, but look at the concentration, the style of Fabien Cancellara in the front. At this point, Eric Zabel knew he was not going to do it anymore, and Cancellara waves his arms in the air in victory, saluting the yellow jersey. What a way to win.
Well, that was an end to a very strange day of racing, but what a brilliant, brilliant win by Cancellara. The world time trial champion showed them how he can ride a road race. The race behind him, that's Zabel. McEwen's run was spoilt by Robbie Hunter there a little bit, and Bonan was on the far right. Eric Zabel gets second, Napolitano third, and Bonan there will take fourth. But what strength to ride from the front of the peloton, reach the breakaway and beat him on the line. I can't believe this, neither can his team.
That really was a great move there. You have to have guts and courage to make a move like that. This man is gasping for oxygen now. We were worried about him losing his lead with about 5 kilometers today. With the 20-second time bonus, he's going to keep that yellow jersey now, Phil, for a few more days and not have to worry about the sprinters.
He's now going to look at a 33-second lead with that 20-second time bonus instead of 13 seconds. So that's what you do. And what a great delivery. This time yesterday he was sitting on the road and then riding in looking as though he was out of the Tour with a damaged wrist. Today he's saluting the crowd in Compiègne, and he beat all of the sprinters to do it. That was a fantastic finish.